Good morning and welcome to Carnation Crafts. We are live in the Carnation Craft studio, and as always, it's lovely to have your company. If you hear anything odd, Miss Taz has got the giggles in the corner and can't stop laughing. So just to keep you all posted, she is being very, very silly in the corner. We have got the most gorgeous show for you. I love doing special ed shows. They're my favourite to do because we get to bring in loads of collections, look at them together, see how they merge. Really nice place to be. And today's no exception. They've brought us this beautiful set of special ed vignettes for different collections, some of which you will own at home already. But it's on the deal of the day. And because it's on the deal of the day, it means the offer that they're bringing you can only last until midnight tonight. So they're currently in there. It's 231994 if you want the number for it. That's your special edition vignette download. It should be 15 quid, I think. Yep. But it's on a show price. She's just, all I can see is her shoulders bouncing up and down because she's laughing. She's made herself laugh this morning. It's a special show price today of $4.99, and that's going to change at midnight tonight. So the way to get that is to go onto the Carnation Crafts website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. Get yourself over to the Deal of the Day button, which is the bright red one in the middle of the screen on the top banner. When you go there, it shows the deal of the day, but it does tell you sitting there, there's less than 14 hours to grab this because it's going to go up in price. So it is a little special one. I'm just going to give a shout out to some people who are joining us because there's lots of you this morning. Good morning, Pam Simpson. Good morning, Miss Janine. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Kate. Good morning, Jacqueline. Good morning, Linda McLeod. Good morning, Stephanie. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Suzanne. I think it's just jumped. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Pam. There's loads of you here this morning. And A up to Miss Carol Hart. Horrible day in here in Kent. Yeah, it is a horrible day here in Peterborough as well. Really grim and miserable. There is Miss Sharon Curtis. Good morning, Miss Sharon Curtis, to you too. Hello, Maggie Jones. So, special ed vignettes, why do I love them so much? I've always loved the way that they do them because they don't just bring out another colorway for a set collection, although they do that lots as well, and they're beautiful when we get those second chances. But with the special ed, what they do as a team is actually work out, well, okay, which parts of which collections go together really well. One of the things that we have difficulties as crafters, especially when we collect things like we do with Carnation, it can be sometimes hard to think, well, what can I take from where and bring it together? So the team kind of do that for us, and then they recolor them so it works almost as another collection amongst themselves. And that's really powerful because we get a brand new look at things that we maybe would bypass otherwise. So I love it for that. Just bear with. Kate says it's beautiful in Northern Ireland. Ms. Pam Simpson is crafting as she watches. Lisa says, hi, Carla and Taz. Ready to craft. Sun is out in Dublin. Horrible in Norfolk. Wet and windy. Roll on summer, says Stephanie. Yeah, absolutely. It was warm yesterday. Excuse me, took a turn for the worse this morning. And then over on YouTube, we've got, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Krista. And good morning to you, lovely, as well. So what we're going to do, the first thing I've done is printed a list of all of the dies and which collection they belong to for the vignettes that we're getting. And I'm going to put that on the overhead so you can see it and you can freeze frame. So you can go through and you can look at which collections we're going from and you can work out which ones you've got. So you can take a screenshot of that if I take my hand away from it, and you can work out which ones you've got. So we're working from Orchard Outing, Perfect Day, Spring Forward, Delivered in Style, Fairy Tale Day, Into Spring, Wonderful in White, Kind Thoughts, and Elegant Al Fresco. So if you've got any of those, then you have now got sort of new ways of using them, which is lovely. Good morning, Pamela. Linda says artwork downloaded, beautiful in Scotland. Suzanne says a nice day in Bognor, perfect for crafting. Oh, a not nice day in Bognor. Yeah, it's grim. It's grim. I was going to say it's grim up north, but actually, I'm in the south. I'm in the south. which Miss Taz is very thrilled about. I'm going to quickly run through some of these vignettes for you so you can see them, and then we're going to start getting straight into demo. I will say before I start demoing today, I did have a really lovely private message from one of our crafters called Rachel, who has asked if I will take some time out during demos to go through my process of foam taping and which ones I'm using and why I'm using some. My demos aren't foam taped, I've done all the other taping, but in case you're wondering why I'm blathering on about it, it's just so that I can explain that. I'll be fairly quick with it, but just so you can see it. So I've got the different ones. Good morning, Sharon Butchers. I hope you are really well. First time watching you live on YouTube, Sharon. That is awesome. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and then they'll let you know when we're going live if you hit the notification bell. So one last time, 231994 is your deal of the day. It's your special ed vignettes. Go to the deal of the day button on Carnation Crafts website. If you don't buy this before midnight tonight, then unfortunately it will go back to its normal price of £15. So let's have a look at what we're getting. Beautiful, beautiful. This is the really gorgeous bird, and it's the Grove Guest from Orchard Outing, which was incredible when it first came out. Just stunning. Absolutely stunning. Amanda is saying, is there a set of perfect papers to go with this new colour set? No, they don't bring out new perfect papers for it, but perfect papers that you've got from certain collections will all work with it. So obviously costs are sort of kept down. So perfect papers come out with the main launches that we do. Carnation do 2 main launches per month. And you'll always get a pack of perfect papers with those, but the perfect papers are kept to those. But the perfect papers that you've got, you'll be able to bring them in, and I'll sort of show that as I'm going through as well. If you're ever struggling for that and you're not sure on colour theory which ones to bring in, I can tell you categorically your best friend are your blush papers. That's the blush natural, your blush rose and your blush blue, because they all go with all of them, and that's always across the board with any Carnation cards. So your blush papers, huge asset to you all the time, especially when we're working with things like this and we might be unsure as to which colourway to go to. So I hope that helps. Good morning, Jean Hughes. I hope you're well. So Grove Guest, beautifully done, gorgeous artwork. That is a showstopper on its own. If you've got a really gorgeous card and you've just got some layers, and we will look at the bird, that's a showstopper all on its own. We've got your long line bow. I love the bows. I absolutely love the bows. I'm trying to see on here which one everything comes from. That's from Perfect Day, 200422 for your long line bow. This is from Sheer Delight. So it's not that long ago that we had this one. And I know lots of you have got Sheer Delight. This is the good stuff, 230209. Then you've got your beautiful letter. Let me see, your vintage letter, which is from Delivered in Style, 211023. Lily of the Valley frame, and that is from Into Spring, 210332. This one, let me work out which one. Is it a touch? No, I'm going to get this wrong. Oh, Gentle Light from Kind Thoughts, 191208. This is your corsage elements, and that is from Perfect Day, 200420. I'm hoping I've got all of these right. That is your, I think it's Catmint, no, Lobelia from Elegant Alfresco, 210718. I know there's 3, that's your Catmint, I think. Oh, I'm going to get all of these wrong. You know, I'm ridiculous when it comes to florals. 210717. That is your Touch of Flair from Perfect Day, 200419. Look how pretty these are. That's your Carnation Flurry. Love Carnation. We love Carnation. And that one is Elegant Alfresco, 210716. And you've got your little elements here, and I'm trying to work out where all these are from. Placed in Nature, I think. Pretty sure. And Placed in Nature is 220321 from Spring Forward. And then I love the Overlook. The Overlook has always been one of the most incredible dies they've got, and now we've got another colourway for it. Isn't it beautiful? It's one of those, they've got this and the Weeping Willow, and they just take your breath away. There's very little else that you need to do because the artwork is so incredible, and the die itself with all the cut lines and where it's placed, it does the job for us. It's just, there's something about it. I love it. And that one is, let me look, from Fairy Tale Day, 210904. Then your bride and grooms, these are obviously from Wonderful in White. Again, not that long ago. I'll whip through those because it's all the different colourways for them, for all the different skin tones. 221015, it's your double silhouette card shape. I'm just going to whip through because you've got your bride and then you've got your groom and then you've got all of your different hair colours for all of them as well. Let me just see. So you're getting the full lot there. They have recoloured the whole lot for you. So if you've got Wonderful in White, this whole collection is going to be a absolute boon. Is that one or two? There we go. And then I love this so much. This is your banded wreath, and this is from Spring Forward, and that is 220322. I think that might be the end, and then we go back to the beginning. So that is all of your vignettes. That's all the colourways that we're getting in that. I did just want to run through it and give you the numbers for the dies that correspond, which means that when you finish watching this, if you want to get any of the dies individually, you can whip back onto this video before the end of today and go and grab the dies that match with the vignettes that you're getting on the special ed, which is the deal of the day today, which is 231994. I feel like I just spewed out a lot of words. I apologise. $4.99 today. At midnight tonight, that will go back up to £15. So this is a one chance thing. What do they look like when they come together? We're going to have a look at some finished samples before we get to demo. And I just want to show you some of these are just exquisite. I've got to tell you, DT team for Carnation, blow me away. Me, however, not so much. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that so pretty? All from this collection. That's your corsage elements. Beautiful. Apertures done with the Carnation ovals. Really stunning. Absolutely beautiful. That's Janine's. And we've got Barbara's. The Carnation Flurry. So pretty. That's Taz's shout of the day this morning. She absolutely loves that. Isn't it pretty? The way we work. The way we work with all of those elegant pieces. Linda says clean and simple. Absolutely. I'm just going to move these over to the side. Bring in some more for you. Beautiful. Those crystalline nested dies. All brought in your wonderful white elements. Beautiful. Just bringing those collections together. Your bride and groom are so stunning when they're on the DLs because the shape just allows that depth and height. And again, you get, you know, the different hairstyles and all the rest of it. It's really, really gorgeous. Sam Smith, £5 the overlook is worth that alone. I need to find my bride and groom dies from the Wonderful in White now. Just don't know where I've put them. The overlook's stunning. I love the overlook. And I love that we've now got another colour for it. I've always loved the overlook. Always loved it. Then look at this. Those beautiful, it's the difference, isn't it? So when we're looking at something like this, where you have got that very pared back, clean, simple workings, and then you can bring in some of those elements that are more, I always want to use the word busy, and I don't mean busy, but you know what I mean, a fuller card, fuller card. It's the different ways we craft, and it's all from the same thing. That's the magic of Carnation, because none of them are the same. We all craft differently. I don't like being told what to do. I like the fact that I choose. Miss Taz laughing. It does make Miss Taz's joke. Look at that. How perfect. How perfect. We don't need excess with Carnation. The artwork speaks for itself. Sometimes those simple pieces are just incredibly beautiful, incredibly pretty. White space always going to be a really beautiful friend for you. Lily of the Valley frame. Life is sweeter with you. That's true, Miss Taz, for you. I mean, as in, with you. I'm going to stop talking.
Your life is sweeter.
My life is sweeter with you. I think yours is slightly worse for wear, but as in, you know. But I love that so much. I love that so much. That bird, that Grove Guest, what a die. So pretty. Really beautifully done in corner elements as well when we move that branch down. It's so pretty. It's breathtaking. I love, love, love. The dies they've chosen for this special edition vignette are just sublime. On your special day. There's more simple cards, aren't they? These are the ones where we are sending something lovely to somebody and we're saying we're thinking of you, those cards, you know, because every time we design for a card, we're designing differently. If you're designing a wedding card, it's not going to be anywhere the same as a thank you card. They're going to be different in our head. We're going to separate them. And so we know design wise, those designs are going to change. We have to have a company that allows us to do that with the products they give us. Otherwise, what's the point of buying them? We've got to be able to compartmentalize. And that's what we can do with Carnation. It's important. Don't be sorry for being late, Jacqueline. We're just very, very glad that you are here. Look, I love them. And then just to bring in an alternative, and then we're going to get on with demo. Beautiful. And this is what I mean. So if I find, where is she? Okay, we're using the same element. We're using the same tonal colours. So we're using pinks. Each one of those uses pinks. That's the one thing they've all got in common. They all use pinks, they all use florals, they all use the Grove Guest. And not one of them is similar to the next. That's Carnation. That's what I'm always trying to say. I can give the same elements to 100 people and you'll all come up with a completely different card. That's a really nice place to be. We want to be individual. Yes, we want the foundation of strong artwork, but we still want to be us, right? We still want to be the crafters that we are. I like the fact that we can do that. So let's have a look at some demos. Some of mine are sort of more clean and simple, I suppose. We're going to have a look at foam tape. We're going to look at building. We're going to look at how we bring things together. And hopefully over the period of the show, I'll be able to bring you some more finished samples too. Everyone said every card is a stun out. Well done, everyone in the DT. The DT for Carnation, I can say wholeheartedly, in the space of time that I've been in the craft industry, Carnation has got the strongest DT, in my opinion. They are just incredible, all of them, and they all have different strengths in different areas. I'm now getting to the point where I can recognize different DT members just by looking at the card. And that is a really nice place to be as well, because we still get to have our individual styles and our individual kind of footprints on the cards, which is really nice. So let's have a look at some demos. We're going to go fairly clean and simple for the first one, and we're going to look at some simple ways of maneuvering around these special vignettes and just bringing it together. I'm going to work with an aperture, and I'm going to talk about foam tape as well, and hopefully we can all learn something from there. Not everybody likes using foam tape, I understand that, but obviously, as you know, it's something I use a lot, and somebody has asked if I'll explain the process, my process of when I'm doing it. So I hope it helps somebody out there. Janine says she totally agrees about the DT team, though she may be a little biased. Janine is head of the DT, so I assume she is biased, and so she should be. She has an amazing team. The DT team, I can't praise them enough. They are just such an inspiration to us all. Right, I'm going to do a big card. I don't often do really big cards, but I'm doing a big card. So by that, what I mean is I'm going in at 10 by 7.5, I believe. Yeah, 10 by 7.5. So it is a large lined card, okay? Usual thing, we've got it taped up here, we've got it scored at 1/2 inch. So as far as the demos are concerned, that bit is already taken care of. I don't really think you need explanations as far as those basic adhesions are concerned, because obviously most of you know what you're doing with that. But I'm going to score it here, or fold it on my line, and then I'm just going to pull this. Same thing as always. The reason I always repeat myself on these processes is because we have new people joining every day. So I do realise it might be frustrating to some of you. I do apologise, but everybody deserves a chance at learning, right? So we're going to place and push, and we're going to go from there. So what I've got here are some apertures, and I've got them in 3 different tones, or it's essentially in 2 different tones, okay? Just make sure I've got these the right way around. So I don't know if you can see this, but I have got, Miss Tiztaz is doing hand movements to try and straighten me up. I've got my white card base, okay, and then I've got tonally 3 different colours. So I've got the darker tone, which is a perfect paper, and that is from, I think it was from Summer Pursuits or Summer Bliss. It's from one of the 2, or maybe Fruits of Summer. It had summer in the title, one of those, and it's just a cream. It's just a cream, but I'm toning it out with my blush paper. Okay, so I'm using the 2 hues just to cool each other down. And then I've got a white, and I'll cool everything down with the white. That's my main focus, is cooling everything down. So these are really just to give me a process. Now, the way that I've done my apertures, if it helps anybody at home, I cut that one first, which is my largest one, and I use my largest die for it. And then I cut the next two, working out which one I wanted to be the biggest and which one I wanted to be the smallest as far as my apertures are concerned. And I didn't measure anything. What I did was cut a piece that I knew that would be hidden by my back piece, so it doesn't matter, and I cut my oval in the middle, and that means I can layer them up. So it doesn't matter that that's straight, because it's going to be hidden by my big piece, right? So no harm, no foul. So as far as foam tape's concerned here, what do I want to achieve? I'll keep that there so you can see it. What do I want to achieve? If I want just a standard layered aperture, and this is some people's kind of favourite way to work, they just love that layered look, just use your normal foam tape, or just use finger lift, red liner, and you'll get that beautiful tone on tone. Okay, and what that does is allows it to frame. That's its job. It's framing what you're putting behind it. If you want more impact than that, then you want to build, and you're going to build shadow, and you're going to build sort of some height. Now, my thought process for that, as somebody who deals with shadow a lot and colour and all of those things, it's probably my favourite thing to do, is where do I want any shadow? Do I want shadow? What am I putting behind it? Is that going to gain more by having shadow, or am I going to lose something in the artwork? And that's always what I'm playing with. I'm working with a big card. It's a big space that I'm working with. So because it's such a big space, I know I need some lift, because the card's too big to keep it flat, in my opinion. So if I leave those layers like that, what's going to happen is anything that I put behind is almost visually going to bulge out of it. So I need to just recess it a little bit. I don't need to go insane. I'm not going to do super chunk, but I do need to recess it a little bit. So as far as my foam tapes are concerned, I've got 3 sets here. So I've got a 1mm, I've got a 3mm, and I've got a 5mm. I do sometimes use a 2mm and a 4mm as well, but I tend to stick with my 1, 3 and 5. That works well enough for me. 1mm, 3mm, 5mm. Okay, do they look pretty? No. Are they okay? Yes, and they do the job that I need. Oh, you're laughing at Miss Phyllis being all over it.
Well loved.
They're always well loved. I go through so many of these, it's ridiculous. But my cats really like to sit on the 1mm. I think it's warm, and they always choose that one to sit on. Do I care? Not really. Does it hide behind the cards? Yes, and I'm fine with that, but it is part of my crafting process. Unfortunately, I have cats. So for this, would I go for 1mm? I can go for 1mm. Is it going to make much difference? No. Will it make a little bit? Yes. Am I going to use 5mm? No, because it's going to be this high and it's going to look ridiculous, and I don't need it to recess that much. So I'm going to go for 3. I'm going to find that happy medium. But I can make choices here as well. I can keep the 2 colours. So I've got the creams. I can keep those almost flat, but keep those flat. Raise them on a 3mm, so they're slightly higher, and then raise this one on a 3mm. So I get a point of difference there. That's going to give me a different visual. It's up to you how you want to craft. So what I'm going to do essentially with this, I want to raise the top one. That's my main focus. So what I'm going to do with these 2 is put them on a 1mm first. So I'll put this, so I'm changing heights. If I wanted it all to be uniform, look how bent that is. If I wanted it all to be uniform, I would keep all of them at the same height, but I'm not bothered about that. So I'm going to stick onto this one predominantly first, because I want to keep it at the edge in case I want to tuck anything in. So first of all, going on here, I'm just going to pull this to this point. And a bit more on this side. Remember, some of this is just for support. You don't need to take the backing off all of it, but you do need to support all elements. Now, if I was going to be layering and I was going to be putting elements on each layer. So if I was going to have some layers on here, some layers behind, and some in front, so some vignettes, if you like, going back, so I'm almost making a layered frame, I'm going to need my foam tape to be closer to the actual aperture, because I don't want it to sag. That's going to be important to me. But because I'm not going to be doing that, it's okay. I can keep it towards the edge, which allows me to tuck things in if I want to, but I don't need to. Karen says, hi Carla, I'm struggling to get foam tape in 5mm. Where'd you get yours from, please? Well, I used to always buy mine from Glazier's because it is an insulation tape for windows. It's not a foam tape for crafting. It's not designed for crafting at all. But I'm somebody who uses it a lot, so I don't want little rolls because I'd be out of pocket very quickly, so I tend to go for these. You can get it on the Zon. If you go to Amazon, type in 5mm double-sided insulating tape, you'll see these. They'll have them, and you can get it from there. So the first thing to do when you're doing these is make sure your apertures are actually correct and you've got them in the right line, because sometimes I've put foam tape on the wrong place in the wrong time. So what I need to do is just put some support at the bottom here. I will do this process as fast as I can going through the demos, but somebody has specifically asked. So if I put that there and that there. So first thing I'm going to do with this is backwards to what I normally do, because normally I would create tabs, and you can do that by putting it on the back of here, but because I know my apertures aren't entirely straight, that could cause me some problems. So I'm going to have to do it this way, so I just need to eyeball it first. I can't eyeball perfectly because I can't lean over, so I'm just going to bring this further towards me, just bear with. And I'm just going to, mine will be rough. When you're at home, you're obviously going to measure this absolute. I can't because I can't lean over. But that'll do me for now, okay? I'm okay with that. You can see I'm off kilter. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. Nobody's seeing that part of what I'm doing. It's hidden. It's part of the insert of the card. But this one, I'm going to have, right, if I just place it here, if I lay that flat, what I'm actually doing, because I've got foam tape on these and I've got shadow, this then just, it allows those to kind of recess, but it just allows this flat. If I raise this a little more and have some shadow, do you see how I now suddenly start to get some different impact? This is why I make the choices I make. It's not just about loving chunky cards, it's about where is my impact coming from. And although we've got all of the artwork, the outside does matter too. Your canvas matters too, you know, for me. It's a big thing for me. So I'm going to raise this on 3mm, not on 5. 5mm would be too chunky for me, but 3mm is a nice space. So I'm going to open this, if I can get into it, which is always a laugh. Where'd I put my pokey? Just a minute, I can't see. I can't see. Wait, here we go. So if I just pull this, we can go from there. Right, let me just get rid of this because I'm going to end up in a pickle if I start to craft with that bit, and we will go from thither. Right, so if I then place this foam tape, my 3mm, down these edges. What are you saying to me, Taz? What? Move my glasses, are they in the way? I'll need them again in a minute and then I won't be able to find them. So if I place this here on the outside edge, I'm keeping it away from the actual frame. Offset on this one. And then just a little bit of support on those bottom ones. This isn't for sticking. The bottom ones and the top ones are not for sticking for me. If you've got all the time in the world at home and you can do that, absolutely go for it. But I just need it for support. So that's got my 3mm down, and so now that hopefully will give me the impact that I need from top to bottom. So I've kept my two colours closely together. They're on a 1mm. There's not much difference, but there's enough separation to give it something, okay, which is here. And now for this one, I give it just a little more. Again, I can't get totally straight, guys. I'm sorry. Obviously, I would not advise you doing it this way at home. Lean over it. Get a visual of what you're doing. Unfortunately, I don't have that luxury. You see that? You see how we get that beautiful shadow play? Less there, little bit more here. We're getting that play. Okay? So that's what we can do. Suzanne says, I always lose my glasses. They're always on my head. Well, I did have a viewer who said, why does she always wear her glasses on her head? Does she not actually wear them? And I always have my glasses on my head because I always lose them. And that's why I keep them on my head at all times. For some reason today, that did not occur. Right, for this, I then need to just lay this on my card base. My card, hey, look at that. My card base is all made. Let me, okay, nowhere fast on that one. Right, so I'm just going to place, don't need much of this. Red liner tape, I think personally we overuse red liner a little bit in the industry. It's very, very sticky. And it has got an extraordinarily good purpose in some instances, and in others I think it slightly gets overused. Right, halfway down, let's create those tabs. And then we're going to play. Now, my instinct here is to straight away place this, right? And I can absolutely do that. But what the problem is here, and you'll all be able to guess the problem, is if I don't put it on a foam tape, as I haven't here, it's going to go straight down. If I then want to tuck something behind it, I'm going to struggle. So your first port of call, find the items that are going to cause you the problems on the inside and just loosely place them. You don't need to even really glue them at this stage because we can go in and make sure they get glued. Is her skirt going to cause me a problem? Is it going to come off the edge of my card? Where is my aperture going to sit and how do I want it to sit? I know it's going to have to tuck in. I know his feet are going to have to tuck in. I want them to be central. See how we have to place and mould, because my red liner tape is going to hit her dress. Whichever way I look at it, I've got to get it roughly right. I think I'm okay with that. I'm about central. I think I probably want them slightly lower. About there is good, I think. Now, do I want her? You see, at this stage, what I might do with her is just snip off, because it's not going to be seen, a little bit of her dress, and I can make them more central. Okay, so we start to build in those apertures and that framing for them. So I'm quite happy with that there. So I'm going to stick her skirt down with the rest of the card. Hopefully that will be enough to hold them while I remove my tape. That's going to hold her dress in place. I'm going to glue their heads in a second, but I've still got some maneuverability, and that is what I need. So I've now got those beautifully lined, beautifully framed in my frame. I'm good to go now. I can craft now. So my base is done. My canvas is sorted. So I often try and work with my canvas first, then work with the detailing, because your canvas is the thing that's going to give you your support, your foundation for the rest of it. So sometimes it's a nice way to play, is just to make sure you've got that in place. So next thing, wet glue. And those amazing applicators. And just while I'm doing this, just a reminder, deal of the day, guys, it's going to go up at midnight to £15. If you want this, now's the time to do it. 231994, or just head straight over to the deal of the day on the Carnation website and they'll sort it. Now, once I've got their heads stuck, they're in place. Her skirt's being held where it is. His head's going to keep him completely in place. He's not going to move. You do need to give it just enough drying time to trust the process. And she needs some hair. So I'm just going to pop this here. She's going to have a little ponytail. The glasses colour. Otherwise her hair will be off kilter. So I'm just going to place that round her ear. I think, poorly when Wonderful in White was on, and I never got to demo it, which is incredibly sad. See how we frame that? Now, one of the things to note here is the colours that I've used and the reason I've used them. When Nick and the team have recoloured this collection, it's got this really kind of beautiful spring wedding feel to it, almost going into summer, that midpoint between spring and summer. It's really warm, buttery tones. So I'm trying to emulate that in the perfect paper that I used and in that blush natural. It just allows it to have that richness to it, but I still want my white base. So by using apertures in 3 different colorways, where we're going through the sort of ombre effect, if you like, you allow that butter tone to come through, but you still keep it cool with the whites on top, and that allows a really clean base for you to work from. So those two work so well in there because the colors of the apertures are sort of emulating the dress, those tones, the hues that are coming through, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So then what I'm going to do is bring in those colors with these corner, look at that. Those corner elements are so strong. They're so pretty. And this is the thing, we don't need much. This is why we can clean and simple with Carnation, because those tones are exquisite. So I'm just going to work corner piece to corner piece. I don't want it right in the corner. I want some separation. Think of, we were talking about the other day about kerning when you're doing letters. That little gap gives a visual relief. You don't need it right into the corner. Allow yourself that centimetre. Think of it as a margin. If you're doing a Word document, if you're writing something, you have that margin. And we give those margins visually because it relieves the eyes. That's why we have margins when we're writing. And it's the same with card making. Just allow a little margin. It'll give you a different impact on your cards. Same again, roughly the same margin. Again, I can't lean, so I'm guessing my margins at this stage, but you know the principle. Just placing through. Try and make sure that's straight. See how pretty that is? There's very little that's needed. There's something so impactful with Carnation. I'm going to put one more element on. I don't need it, but I want to show you it. Because we've got the pinks within the frame, but I don't have a pink here. If I want to marry it completely, I can choose another pink from those corsages, those that looks like a bouquet, that's got that wedding element to it, and I can place essentially at the bottom here. And it would need to either realistically be at the bottom, I'll hide that bit, or at the top coming down, because we've got the 2 corner panels. If I suddenly randomly stick it somewhere, unless I'm going to do a full round, it's going to look odd. So I could put it here, but if I put it here, I'm going to need more florals. I can't just randomly stick one, it's going to look strange. So you've got to marry it somehow perfectly, and I'm going to put it at the bottom because I don't want it to cover their faces. I think their face is one of the massive pieces that we framed, the bottom of the dress, and the feet not so much. So choosing those spaces is important. Let's shape some of this out. Take a ball tool that's an appropriate size. Remember, we're working from the outside. You could actually on this one do every single individual petal, but I'll just do it for speed's sake. I'll just do the round, but we work on the outside and we work towards the inner points. So I just get that little round edge, but I can't pin flare this one. The reason I can't pin flare it, unless I'm going to tuck it right down there, which I can do, but it looks odd to me. I need it to be on one of the apertures. And if I pin flare it, I'm going to get stuck. You see how those apertures work? Those layers that allow us to do it. I could probably get away with some pin flare if I put it on there. But you can have it overlapping, which looks really pretty as well. Let's pin flare. Let's do it, Miss Taz. Let's be daring and brave. I'm just going to kind of fill this a little bit, but not over. I don't want to excess on the pin flare here. Tucking it between. Allowing that just to go over and letting it rest so that it finds its natural space to be. And we just give it that bloom. And what that does is allow our pinks to shine in that frame. So everything, what we start doing when we play with colour and we bring in some pinks to match the pinks on those corners, what we're allowing it to do is marry. So every single element becomes visually important, even if we don't focus essentially on one. We're focusing on the bride and the groom, but actually what happens is on the periphery we take in those corners because we've brought out the pink, we take in the colour tones because we've brought out those yellows, and everything marries together. And that's partly to do with the canvas we create as well. So I hope that helps. I hope the foam tape explanation helps as well. and I hope some of you get something from it. It's just the way kind of my brain works and the sort of artwork that I've done historically, and how, you know, how I work out my demos, because you guys don't, it's all very well me sitting here with a demo that I've prepared in advance and saying this is how you can use this, but actually as crafters we have to start somewhere, right? There's got to be a point where we go, where do I begin? And we get inspiration from different areas. So I hope that did help somebody. Right, let me move that out of the way and let's go on to a second demo. And again, I'm still working large here, but we're going to bring in some florals and we're going to bring in some colour, because I love colour. Makes me happy, especially on grey days like today. It's easy to feel gloomy when the weather's grey. Miss Tiz Taz is going on her holidays on Monday, aren't you, Miss Tiz Taz? For a week, so we don't have any shows until I think Friday, although I'm going to come and do some bits on Facebook, I think. But next week I will be spending my time sorting out all of my carnation dies, which is quite a task. There are thousands of them. So if anybody wants to see how I sort out my storage for my dies, let me know and I'll put some photos in the group so you can see how I keep mine together. And I'm just going to place card shape done, okay? And then we're going to work in layers. Now, look at that. Isn't that stunning? Isn't that really beautiful? Now, in order to use a colour that's that bright, I need to have a bigger frame, because that just cools it. But I couldn't work on that for me because I will lose my pieces. So for instance, with that pink tone, if I put that on there, I lose the impact of it. It actually makes it look very dark, doesn't it, that rose? And it's not dark at all. However, if I was to place it on a whiter surface, then suddenly I get the full impact of it. So it's just the idea of playing. How are you going to make your layers? This one I'm going to keep flat. I don't want to have realistically any particular height on it. I'll go for a 1 mil because I do like to keep some separation, but I'm not worried about any definition here. I'm not trying to make it sky high. Yeah. So I'm just, now one there, one in the middle, one at the other side, middle support, other two adhesion. Bring it in, half and half on the tabs. And then find your centre point. Before you stick, don't commit until you've found your centre point. Again, can't lean over. Once it's done, push, pull. Then we're going to go in with our next colour. It's just a white. And I've got much less of a piece. Oh, my tummy's rumbling. I do apologise. So it's much lower. I'm growling in the background. I haven't had my toast. So let's go in here. And again, I'm keeping this on a 1 mil. Very specifically 1 mil. I'm keeping it low, I'm keeping it flat. And the reason that I keep it low and I keep it flat is because my impact for this one is going to be my centre stage. So these are just my little elements for the outside. Same thing. Create your tabs. Sounds good. Always good to get someone else's idea of storage. I will say mine is very much practical as opposed to beautiful. It's to do, I obviously need to grab mine all the time. So because it's obviously my job, and so mine is not necessarily the prettiest storage you'll have ever seen, but it does work. Now I'm bringing in some rose blush this time, and that is to go against the pink. So I'm bringing out, see how, I can't really explain it actually, hold on. If I put that rose just plain against that white, it's cream. It looks cream. It's definitely the rose blush, but it's got that really beautiful cream tone to it. Again, butter, right? But if I place it against that pink, suddenly it's pink. Because the tones bring out the tones. So it's how you play. And I'm going to keep it on the diagonal because I like it on the diagonal. I think it looks cute, but I need to raise it. And when I'm working on the diagonal, for my own sake, I always work my foam tape on the diagonal too. So I don't want it too far because it's going to fall off the edge of my panels. So I'm happy to just keep it roughly here and here. Oh, one more hither. And I'm only taking off the edges. I don't want the centerpiece, it's just a platform. So, roughly straight, Miss Taz? Yeah. Shadow? See the shadow? So that choice we make. No shadow here, shadow here. Big shadow here. Visually, we straight look at the diamond. We're not looking at the pink. We're not looking at the layers behind. We look straight at the diamond. The reason we look at the diamond is because of the shadow. It's always your shadow play. And I know I harp on about it, and I know it's frustrating, but it is so, so important. Shadows are a really big visual cue to the people that you're sending your card to. How beautiful is that? So what we're starting to do here is play with geometrics. We've got your squares, you've got your diamonds, then we bring in a circle. So we soften all of those edges. Harsh edges, really harsh edges, soften it. And those pink hues that are in there bring out the slight pinkish tone within the banded wreath. And I love the banded wreath. I think the banded wreath is a right corker. We can weave with it, we can create wreaths with it, we can do so much with that banded wreath. You can tuck elements in, it's so pretty and it's so stunning. I love, love, love the banded wreath. So let's play. When I'm putting the banded wreath down, I'm only ever going to put glue in very small places. And that's because I am going to tuck into those holes. So I'm going to need to raise. I can add more glue at the end if I need to. If I'm posting it, once everything's in place, I can make choices. But right now, I just need to stick it to the panel below. That's all I'm trying to do at this stage. Let me get some adhesion so I can start weaving some stuff in. Anything more than that, and if it's stuck completely down, I can't tuck anything in. I'm going to struggle to tuck anything in. So it's just very small areas. And I'm not going to go mad with this one. We're not doing too much, but we're going to make it pretty, right? So I've got some florals. These are the elements that I'm now working with. Now, the biggest piece that I've got here is the letter. So a choice gets made right from the start, right at the beginning. Where is that going to go? Do I want that to be my showstopper? And if I want it to be my absolute showstopper, where's it going to go on the card? Because I can't have anything else outshine it if it's going to be my showstopper. So do I choose to put it in the center? If I want it in the center, why is it there? If I want it at the bottom, pretty as a picture, but it looks naked, I'm going to have to do something else with it. You see? There it is, center stage. If I do it in the center, I'm going to have to put foam tape on it. I'm going to have to raise it because otherwise it looks just sort of randomly placed. It's got no grounding device. But I need it down here so I can have a grounding device, but I'm going to have to put something else there too in order to allow that to happen. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. It's just the way my brain works, but it makes sense to me. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is bring some florals out from it. Now suddenly it has a reason. It's pretty. Sometimes the only reason we need is pretty, right? So all I need to do now is secure those two florals. Just a little bit on that leaf. I want the lift. I want the play. Out. Out. By crackers. Crisscross them over. So pretty. I love that banded wreath so much. It's so, so gorgeous. The impact of it is huge. I am going to put this on a little bit of foam. Should we go mad? Should we go 5? Should we do a 5, Mrs. Taz? Let's get some shadow. Let's get some shadow going. Slightly higher. Lay it down. Really pretty, really pretty. And suddenly that lift allows that now to be my absolute showstopper, but it's too naked at the top. I love white space, but that's even a bit far for me. Like there's white space and then there's goodness me. So I'm going to take this rose and I'm just going to very quickly shape it. I won't take long. On the outside, bring it round through to the centre. Just give it some doming. I want it to sit proud. Bring it down. Again, I'm going to bring these round because we're going to go into a circle. Look how pretty it is. It's so pretty. Carnation just make pretty things. And I'm going to bring that rose in. I can have that rose facing down or I can have it facing up. It doesn't matter which. I'm going to face it up because it makes more sense to me, but it doesn't matter if it makes more sense to you facing down. But I know that I've got my placement roughly right. I'll keep that one there so I can see it. Little bits of glue. We can add more if we need to. We can't take it away. And then I want pin flare. So adhesion's important. Changing out your adhesion is important because it's going to make a different impact on the different things you do. Pin flare is going to be my best friend here because it's going to allow it to sit upright. It's going to allow it to dry like concrete in that concave shape that I've just made with my ball tool. And that's the whole point of us sculpting it, right? Just that little lift. Now, I mean, to me, that's just stunning. That's just so pretty. It's just beautiful, right? And those different shapes, those geometrics that come in with that circle, allow it to just have that. You could put a sentiment in the middle of that. Absolutely. That's one way of doing it. Or I'm just going to use this little element. I'm going to steal some of that pin flare from in there. And I'm just going to tuck that little gift in, hanging down as that little shabby element that sits without stealing the show from the letter below. Just end your visual. Just end your visual. Okay? It's that final, it's your encore. Finish your visual. And that's it. Really easy. Really simple. That banded wreath is going to see you through so many cards because it's got so many uses. So we can weave, we can tuck, we can do all of the different elements just by playing and placing. Florals, always going to be your best friend. Carnation will never make enough florals for me to be happy with. The more florals they give me, amen to it, because I can do so much with florals. And every option that I get with a floral gives me a different way to play on a card. And florals are always going to be your pretty point, right? So when they bring out these new colorways that we've got and we can play with those, that's really, really impactful. So one last demo. While I'm getting that ready, just to remind you, this is the deal of the day today, the special vignettes, and they are only available to you until midnight tonight. You can find them on the Carnation Craft website on their homepage on the deal of the day. If you happen to be watching this a few days later, a year later, 5 years later, it will no longer be the deal of the day, in which case you can find it on the Carnation Crafts website under the number 231994. If you're not watching it today, unfortunately, you will find it there for £15, but if you are watching it today, well done you, you can get it for a £5. So let's play. Last one. We have got the card base that we would always expect to have with Carnation when we're making our cards. So this is a smaller one. We're working on a 7x7. Tell you what, this glass mat has been an absolute boon because I can't remember to measure anything. So place this in, shuffle. White space. Now, I've got 2 layers here, one in cream, or in the blush, should I say, and that's the blush natural this time, and then one in white. This is what I was saying about your blush papers. You've got enough perfect papers to be able to find a colour match, but if you're scared of making a wrong decision, use your blush papers. Gives you a really beautiful background. It's just something different. It's just a tonal change. And so on this, I could work white on white, absolutely, but I think sometimes that tonal change is really pretty when we're working with different things. You'll see why I did that in a minute because I'll start to bring it all together. But sometimes it's just a shift in your head and you go, well, I want it white on white, but if I can just give it something else, then it'll just have a different visual. And that's what I did on this. But as I always say, white on white is going to eat itself. You can see it's eating itself there. Even with the change in tone, it's still eating itself. There's not a lot of point to it, right? So this is where your foam tape comes in. This is when it becomes important. So we're going to go 3 on 3 on this. I won't do 5 on 5. And shall I do a 5 on 5 because I haven't done one? Oh, my tummy. I'll do 5 on 5 and then you can see the different impact on it. I would normally, by the way, choose a 3 on this, not a 5, but let's have a look at the difference in play. So let's do a chunk. I've got to say my favourite foam tape is 5mm. I love 5mm. I love chunky cards. Sharon always laughs at me with my chunky cards because she can always tell they're mine. I love chunky cards, but I know not everybody does. So I try and demo with a good mix. If it was me, they'd be on 10mm. So it becomes even more important when you're working on a 5mm to make sure you've got that central support. Then it really does become an issue if it sags, because obviously it's higher. Am I about right, Miss Taz? Push, pull. Same again. I did discover the other day you can get 10mm foam tape, but I did think everyone would think I'd lost the plot, so I didn't. Now see the impact of that. Oh, so pretty. It no longer eats itself. We have separation between them. We've got a separation in value of colour. We've got a separation in value of height. So we've got shadow. So everything goes to the centre of that card. Everything that we're looking at drives towards the centre of what we're going to put into it. That's a really nice place to be. So I am going to have a look. My favourite ever nested, and I think you all know it's my favourite ever nested, is the eyelet and ring nested dies, which I space in my heart for these. They're so pretty. Now mine's slightly bent. I'm not worried about that because I'm going to stick it down. But eyelet and ring are just extraordinary. Not only because the detailing around it, we also get those very fine squares that come off it as well, which I'm not using for this demo, but they're there and they create gorgeous geometrics, but we get to weave. So I'm using the accessories from the eyelet and ring, and I've cut those again in that blush paper. So I'm starting to tone on tone on tone, okay? And I have then got, Sharon, I'd like to see the postman deal with a 10mm taped card. Maybe I should put it to the test, Miss Sharon. She would lose it, I think, if I started making 10mm ones. She already loses it when I do the 5. So we've got these beautiful plaited pieces, and I've cut those in the same blush cardstock that I have done the actual eyelet and ring from as well, because it's going to give me that impact. And what I'm going to do here is create a corner for my card. So we don't just have to use elements. I'm going to create the corner, and I'm going to probably cover the corner that I create, but it'll make sense as I'm going through. It's going to give a visual token to the card. So the first thing I'm going to do with this is weave. So I'm just going to pop that through and through, and I will make gluing choices as I go. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to weave over and through. I don't think I'll ever tire of the eyelet and rings, ever. Then on the next, I'm going to weave again, but I'm going to weave, obviously, weave as opposed to the opposite. Hang on, I'm going to get this wrong way around in my brain. Just let me go this way, because otherwise I will get it wrong. If I go through this and over, and then through this way, so we've got one over, one under. And then I need to go the opposite on this. So this one needs to go under this one and over that one and through here. And it can sit through there. Okay, so what I've done here is now created a corner, a most beautiful corner. I obviously need to cut off the excess. That's absolutely, you know, obvious at this stage, but Look how pretty we already are, and I haven't touched a thing. The eyelet and ring is just exceptional. Now we can make choices with the eyelet and ring. The little dashed lines that we've got allow us to space things differently with these, but we need to kind of make the same decision. So if I'm going to push that one as close in as I can to this one as close in as I can, so I'm creating smaller margins, that's absolutely fine, but I've got to do the same with the bottom ones, otherwise it's going to look odd. So you just work out your spacings. Where do you want them, as far apart or as near together? Doesn't matter which, okay? Look at that. How perfect is the eyelet and ring? It's ridiculously clever. So that's that. Now I'm going to obviously cut off my excess, and that's absolutely fine. But the way to do that is to sort of play with it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is turn it around, keep it straight, keep it exactly where you want it, make sure it's where it wants to be. And I'm just going to start to fold this back a little bit on itself and hide those workings. Once I've done that, I can place a little element of glue just along there, and then I can cut off a bit of that excess so I don't catch anything underneath, and hide it. Just so those plaits aren't seen at the other side. And I'm going to do that on all 4 elements. When you're at home, take your time to get this absolutely straight so that it can't be seen at the other side. There may be a chance that one of mine is peeking. I'm not worried for demo, but obviously if I was making this to send out in the post, I would be extremely cautious about it. Push those together, make sure they're folded correctly. And we're just hiding the workings all the time. I'll never ever tire of the eyelet and ring. I genuinely think, as far as nested dies are concerned, what a thing to own. I just remember my excitement, I think, at the first time I ever saw them, and I was just like, whoa, they are ridiculously pretty. So pushing together again, fold it over, fold it over, keep those straight. Now remember, we're going to glue those pieces, so I'm not too worried because they're going to actually get glued to the card base, but I do want to hide the plaits, or the backs of the plaits if you like. Yeah, lots of people saying they love the eyelet set as well. I mean, come on, they're just ridiculously gorgeous, aren't they? Definitely one of my favourite sets of nested. Definitely. I love the shabbies for the nested as well. I think Miss Sharon's favourite are the Hessians. Just snipping off that excess. Oh, pull that down. And here we go. Right, I've got my corner element all made. Look at that. So pretty, right? So gorgeous. There's something about the eyelet and ring. So, little bits of glue here just so that I can get that stuck down to my base. Not too much. Don't excess it. You've got lots of holes here. Make sure you're keeping your glue to a minimum. My tummy, I do apologise. Janine says her favourite nested are the crystalline. Isn't it funny how we hang on to the ones that we love so much? Janine actually used, I believe, the crystalline in her samples for this set. Or one of them at least, which I think I showed you earlier. Once I've got that in place, and I'm sure it's in place, I can start to then make sure my adhesion is more secure by making sure I've got the elements that I need where I need it. Place it in, just tuck. So we can add glue, we can't take it away. And let that dry and do what it needs to do. So we've got that element sorted. Now I'm probably going to cover the little bit that I've done. And as in this corner, what I'm doing is using it for impact. So if I then place my florals, do you see where we're going with that? See how beautiful it becomes very quickly. Just instant stunningness. And that is your new special edition vignettes. Maggie says, I cannot let go of any of my dies. I love them all. Absolutely so, Maggie. And we do. That's why we buy them, right? We buy them because we love them, and then we play and we play and we play. But I think we get certain ones that we get so attached to. I can think of favourite collections, but then I can think of favourite dies as well that I've got from Carnation, and that are not necessarily in the collections that are my favourites, if that makes sense. Go-tos. Look at that. So now see how that blush paper starts to come into its pink, because we're adding pink to it. So we change the tone of the canvas that we've got behind it, and suddenly we've got bits of dimension where we've got the little holes and we've got the plaited piece, and it's suddenly very, very homey and soft and lovely. So I've got some extra florals here, and I'm just going to shape them out a little bit, not too much, but it's going to become a flurry of florals. So little bits, just turning over. Ball tool, Miss Taz, put your glasses on. Right, I'm going to take this. I'm going to be quick with these. When you're doing it, use a smaller ball tool. My tummy is being ridiculous. I do apologise if you can hear it. Just bring those round. Right, now we play. I've got the bird. See how pretty she is? I'll shape her a little bit in a minute, but let's place her first, because I need to know she's where she needs to be. So I'm going to tuck those because they work so beautifully, right? But there is somehow a disconnect between her and the floral below. There's a gap, okay? So I need to add some pops of colour in there just to make it work. Otherwise, something's wrong here. Can you see? This stops before her berries stop. I've got to line it up somehow. Otherwise, visually, I'm off. I don't know if you know what I mean. I can see it. I'm off. Something's wrong here. And something's wrong here. Okay, so I've got to fix that issue. So that's why we've got our little flurries here, and we're just going to use those. Oh, yeah. To fill in my problem areas. So one in here, and I'm raising it. We're bringing in dimension now, okay? So we're playing with size, shape, and element all at the same time, and then we're adding it all together with colour. Fix my problem area. Raise it, bring the dimension in. See how now we've got fuller impact? But then what happens is I have another problem area. Can you see how we can't have it skewing? We need the fullness of it. So we fix it. Everything is a visual cue. Everything is a visual cue. Just turn that so it faces that way. Suddenly we're correct, and it works. So all I'm going to do now is on the other piece that I've got, the last one, I'm just going to almost decoupage that last one up so that that isn't all flat with a few weird raised ones. Oh. So I can place that in just there, and my dimension comes in. See how pretty that is? Now I can shape the bird, and I will do just that. I've got to remember where she's tucked in so I don't ruin the work I've just done. But once we shape her, all the impact will come together and we'll have a full and beautiful design. She's got a very, very specific jelly bean shape on her body, and it's a large surface area. So working with her is something that we need to take in smaller sections, otherwise you're going to struggle to not crease your paper too much, and that's going to cause you problems on your visual, especially when you've created something that's that clean, okay, because you're going to have to keep your bird clean as well. So I'm going to start working on her wing first and bring that in as a separate element. So I'm using a smaller side of my ball tool, working from the outside because my fibers are already broken there, and I can just start bringing that wing through, working it round and making the wing separate. Okay, so that's my separate piece. Then I'm going to do the same on her lovely little head. So working from the outside, bringing where the neckline is, you can see where Nick has put your shading in. It's already there for you as your visual prompt. Working around there. Now I can work on her tummy. And that's where we start doing the bigger ball tool, because I don't want to work with a small ball tool on a big surface area. It's going to crease everything. Work with the appropriate size. So I'm going to work round, and I'm just going to edge her out first. And then I'm going to start working my way in a rocking motion towards her wing without going over the work I've already done, and then I'll bring her back again. Full body shaping. And then I can take a small, I'm not going to go too far with this, but I can take a smaller ball tool and just shape out those beautiful berries. I don't want to go too far. Remember, I know that's tucking in somewhere. So if I start to make them really bulbous, they're not going to tuck, and I don't want that to happen. My shaping is taken care of, but her head is too far back. She is domed. So I'm just going to bring that forward slightly on those cut lines so that she's not odd. And I can do the same with her wing. I can shape out her tail a little bit just with my thumbs so that she's just all shaped and sculpted and beautiful. And then I'm going to use my pin flare. Now I can't use the pin flare on the edges because I'm going to have to move her and wiggle her to where I want to be. So I've got to save myself any hassle with my adhesion, with my glue splurging. So I keep it right in the center, because if I move it, it won't matter so much. It'll still be covered. So we're just going to place in, tuck under, make sure I'm allowing for those problem areas to make sure everything is still covered, and just drop her down right in place. Beautiful, right? 3 very different cards made with the same set. I'll bring you the other 2 in so you can see everything together roughly, and you can see, there you go, thanks Miss Taz. That's all from the same set of vignettes that you're getting today, a ridiculous price of $4.99. And when you think about it, the team at Carnation have to sit with every single one of those original vignettes, and they have to recolor all of them, and that's a lot of work, and they do it because it means something to them to give you some different visual cues, and the fact that they'll give us those for a $5 I think is incredible. But they can only do it obviously for a limited time. It's got to be at a price that's obviously appropriate for it, so it is going to go back to 15 quid tonight, and that'll be at midnight. If you want to grab this today at £5, you're going to need to go to the Carnation Crafts website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. Head to the Deal of the Day button, which is in the very centre of the Carnation Crafts website. Click that and it will give you the deal of today for today, and it is these vignettes, which are $4.99 on the website. However, at midnight tonight that will change to a different deal of the day for tomorrow, and this will go back to its normal price. So should you be watching this at a later date, that won't be the same deal of the day. It will be different. They are only kept there for 24 hours, and this will change as it always does. I hope you found something in this that will help you somewhere, or that you just enjoyed it anyway, and I hope that you get a whole heap of fun out of your special edition vignettes. They're so pretty. Remember, you can freeze frame at the beginning of the show for the list of all the dies that will come into this collection for you. I really hope you have an amazing weekend. I hope you keep really well, you take really good care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week.